if you have a very harshly sibilant vocal, and then a lot of lyrics that have, obsess and sometimes it seems and crazy S's cutting you like swords, it's going to be difficult to set a de-esser to make that pleasing. You'll overdo it, and then you might get used to that, and it'll sound like everything's crazy lispy, and then you put it, not at all, or just delicately, and it'll work sometimes it won't. This is what I have a tendency to do in these cases. There's a ton of stuff on this mix, and there's a lot of noise as a result, so once I turn on the feed to the mix, you're going to hear a bit of hiss in the quiet parts. Nothing I could do about that. I could basically put on a thing to kill that now, but it doesn't make sense because in the mix, a little bit of noise actually helps. Every piece of analog gear always had some noise on it, so we're used to hearing things with noise. Dave Pensato talks about it like the ocean. It's just part of music. And what I'll often do, if people notice that, or if it's a problem to me in a quiet part of the song, that's when I'll turn on a noise gate just in that part of the song. So I'll automate a noise gate on, and then as soon as the music kicks in and everything gets nice and full and dense, you won't be able to tell if there's noise anyway, and the noise may even help. So don't look at it like, is there any noise there? I got to take off all the noise. No, you leave it because it actually helps with the stuff sounding great when a mix is nice and full and thick and there's a lot of stuff going on. However, in parts of the song where it's quiet, the intros, the outros, maybe breakdowns, you might want to automate your noise gate on. And I'll just typically use like the Waves noise thing or the C-Suite. The C-Suite Vox is a good one for vocal noise, which is a UAD plugin. The Clarity VX can be good. There's a lot of different ones that will work for different things, but I have a ton, no shortage of noise suppression devices because no matter what you're doing, if you have a live recording, you may find use for those things. There's always use for those things when you're mixing stuff. So in this specific case, and there we go with the S's, let me turn on the, here we go. Get ready for some noise. All right, so it's not crazy, but in the mix, you can't tell. Let me just play you a section. I'm working on this at the moment. So you hear that sometimes? When it's like a Z sound of S's, not so bad. Like a sometimes at the end of a phrase. If it sounded like sometimes with a Z, sometimes that, just the Z part, is less harsh. The sometimes could be bad. Obsess, a word like that is terrible. I hate that word. There's a lot of words you're going to find you don't like. Even sometimes the ch or the like could be really bad. Or the word jeans, when I say jeans here, it's like jeans. Listen. Hold on here. So I took off some harshness on jeans. So jeans is okay, but sometimes. So I'm just gonna look. This is. Let's just solo it. And where's the S? This part. This part. So we'll take just the some. This is a particularly weird one because the jeans and sometimes is like one word and there's like double S city. So you do is you break the clip, or that's what I do. Apple E will highlight first, then Apple E breaks the waveform, and then I'll just lower it like this. And the reason I do that, okay, I gotta explain why. You could do it on volume, however, if you have a pre-fader, which is the volume fader, send to a parallel situation, which I have in this case, it won't do anything to the version that's not. If I just lower the volume fader here, it does nothing. So this is actually the way you have to handle this, unless you just wanted to take it off the track that wasn't the parallel. You get what I'm saying? So pre-fader stuff is often helpful because you'll basically be able to maintain a balance regardless of what you do with your faders in the mix. You'll have a totally separate balance that exists on your parallel channel, which sometimes is good, but sometimes you don't want that. So there's a few tracks I think I don't have pre-fader on, but there's many of them that I do because I found it worked better to not have to rebalance that once I got it sitting where I liked on the parallel channel itself. So now I just pull these things down, and don't be afraid to pull them down like 10 dB, and then Apple F will give me some quick. And sometimes you'll have to get better, no pun intended, on the fade situation. But if you have an S happening on backups, leads, like tame it everywhere, or just tame it on the backups, leave the lead one alone, but over tame it on the backups. And this is in addition to a very like wideband de-esser on the lead vocal bus here. Now this, if you notice, I also have a different de-esser. So like I have Pro DS set to wideband on this all around thing for the bus, but then I also have, and this is critical about this plugin. Where is it set? 3.4-ish to like 8, almost 9K. Now the Weiss DS is doing a soft DS, which is a very natural sounding de-esser. I really like the Weiss one, but it doesn't do hardcore very well. So I have tons of de-essers for the same reason. You need them all the time. Like Oxford Suppressor DS is really good also, and I'll use them all for different things. So in this case, we have one here, we have one on each channel, and I don't have Soothe on because I found it was softening the vocal too much and I didn't like it. So now this is listenable at least. You see what I mean by it? There's S's here, and then there's S's after it, so it's a real kind of cluster of S's all over the place. And it's on all these tracks, so there's no reason to have it on all these tracks. And this is like one way to do it. The other way, if you didn't do pre-fader, you could essentially set up like your own envelope. Just draw your own envelope in the volume thing, which like it would look kind of like this, where you duck it out for a word. Like look at the way these look. You see this? Like I ducked it out for a word here, which was before I did the pre-fader thing, and I locked my balance in without wanting to adjust it with the fader. I had actually drawn this, and it doesn't help, if it's sent pre-fader. But if you weren't going to use pre-fader, you could just draw the envelope you want for each S. The way I'm doing it is actually, they're both pretty like fine-tuned, picayune, super detailed ways to do it, but this is the kind of thing you only have to do once. There's a couple things in songs you only do once, and then you're very happy afterwards that you did it. Another one is bass. Like a bass player who lets notes ring out, there's a special place for where they go when they're no longer here, if you know what I'm saying. There's a special spot for those people, and it ain't a good place. It's hot where they're going. For people who let the notes ring out, you gotta mute. Like the left hand mute, so critical. Every good bass player knows this. Right hand mute and left hand mute. You got 2 mutes. So that means if your stuff's ringing out between the notes, it's all over. Now, even when you have an amazing bass player, like the bass player who played on this thing is amazing. Every once in a while, you'll want to treat the bass in such a way where maybe you'll add a little grit and this and that might bring up compression, and grit will bring up string noise. So you got a guy who's sliding from note to note here and there. You may hear some like a pick slide, but with the fingers. It doesn't sound good. However, sometimes you dial the perfect sound in, and you don't want to have to compromise less highs in the sound or something to be able to tolerate that. So you just go through and get rid of all the problems. Like when I hear people think about, what AI could be really greatly used for, like in an amazing way, it would be stuff like that. Non-creative stuff that's just annoying stuff that needs to be out of the way. That's like washing dishes, if you ask me. It's like mowing the lawn or something. Some people love to mow the lawn. But in my opinion, there's nothing creative. I don't want to, maybe mowing the lawn's different, right? But there's nothing creative when you're mixing about getting rid of the string noise between the notes, or, getting rid of the blurry parts that are just leftover from a non-muting solid bass player who decided not to mute, and everything's just blurry mud. So you gotta mute so that the notes are tight. And when you create that, be very careful with timing, because if you do it right, it'll make the bass player sound like he's tight. So tight, because he'll be there when the beat is there and he'll be gone when it's not. You're basically making him a better bass player by muting where he should have muted. by creating the mutes yourself. You're essentially stopping and starting the note where he should have done it. And most bass players, especially the ones who aren't that great, they're just going to be like, why does my bass sound so good? That's why, There's a lot of reasons, but that's one of them. Another one is you clean up that string noise. Now all of a sudden you can get it as gritty and as compressed as you want without any of the negatives. It's just like breaths. The more you compress a vocal, the more you bring up the breaths, the more you make the S's harsh. But the vocal will sit nicely. So nothing in audio is without compromise. Everything is a compromise in some way. You make the vocal more clear, you got to deal with the breaths. You got to deal with these S's. You got to deal with the harshness. And that's the price you pay. And it's the same with bass. So these are just a few things, right? But as we go through it, I'll just show you in a little more detail, just in case anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about. But it's super easy stuff. It just takes a while. And don't forget the background. Sometimes people do this on the lead. If you got 2 or 3 background vocals that are much lower in volume, they're still going to stack up on that syllable problem, that S noise, that ch. It could be a k, a ch, a j. It could be a gene sound. It could be anything. Watch out for T's, S's, all the harshness. So when people say to me like their vocal is super harsh, are you putting in the time to get rid of it? Like put in all that extra love to get rid of the stuff by hand, because this is the kind of thing where some people think it's like it doesn't pay to go through and clip gain your vocal track and make stuff. Make it so the compressor works easier. Yes, it does. It just takes longer. But once you realize the compressor does a better job when it's not being fed stuff that's crazy loud and crazy low, you can't ever set it right. So you got to go through clip gain and do the harder thing. It's always like that. Everything in audio sounds better if you take the long road and don't find the shortcut. But what I was saying is, wouldn't it be great if AI did the things like that? Got rid of S's and T's, ducked them for us without, I don't even know how they would do it, but I feel like some of the look ahead modes in this net are trying to do that. It just seems very difficult or nearly impossible to make. Like, I have 3 or 4 or 5 de-essers. None of them seem to do as good as doing it by hand, because sometimes the S is more prominent than others, and sometimes you want a different envelope. There's so many ifs that it can't just get it right every time. But it would be nice if an AI thing could get rid of the bass string noise between the notes, if it could get rid of mud between the notes, but then how does it decide what's mud and what's intentional? So there's all sorts of nonsense that gets tied into like why they can't make that. But make that. Enough with the seedless watermelon. Enough with the freaking, mix a song for you. No, we don't want that. We want this. Get rid of the problem stuff that takes me hours when I sit down to mix a song. So you don't want the this one line is particularly getting me. Let me see if this is enough. They seem to be in different places. Let's see. I feel like it's somewhere just like there. Let's hear. Talk about the worst word of all time. Sometimes. A s and a t back to back? Are you kidding me with that? You must be kidding me with that. It's like, come on with that. Pick a better word. Tomorrow's got a T in the front, but at least tomorrow it's just one T. What can we do without a T, Yesterday's another one. Yesterday. You're kidding me with that. And sometimes let's just do it in the track. Hold on. It's so easy to overdo also. So just note, that's what I like about the clip gain too, when you break it and don't just move it with the keys. I like to see the numbers. I'm at 3.5 on the whole track. I lowered this one to negative 9.4. I lowered, what I'm saying? I get to see exactly how much I lowered it, so I could always bring it back if I want to the same number. Just gets super obvious what everything. At least we're getting back to reality. But a word like sometimes, jeans and sometimes, are you kidding? Jeans and sometimes is the ultimate wave of nonsense in a row. Just bang, 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 bang. Sometimes. jeans? And sometimes, are you kidding me? Sometimes I don't think there's ever been more of a kablamo, all in one, bang bang. At least now we're okay. Hold on. Now the jeans is the only thing that's too low to me, so you got to do this kind of thing. It takes a while, but dedicate the time to do it. You wonder why people's mixes sound good. It's not because they set the thing perfect most of the time. It's because they did stuff by hand. They went in and really carved it up the way they wanted it to, and maybe they also set the thing perfect. You got to do it all right. You can't just do some of it right. So you see what I'm saying? You just go through. Now we're on this S. So break, lower. All right, now fade if we need it, fade. It just makes it tolerable. You could care less. Another way you could do this is create the breaks ahead of time. Then just leave Audio Suite open with the trim tool and take it down, like pick a number, so you open the gain deal here and then just take it down a certain amount, however much you want essentially, and it's going to reduce it by whatever. So then every time you double click and then render, just render, go through and render everything substantially lower. If you ever had to undo it, you could just drag the thing open and it would be whatever you had before you rendered. But that's another way to do it. There's so many ways to do it. So sometimes it's not about lowering, it's about just hearing more of the words. You do this kind of fine-tuned thing to get every nuance. I don't like when things like this are off time from each other. Like, I hate that. So sometimes it's better, instead of having them off time, just lose one. So which is the hotter one? This one's a little bit louder. So we're just going to get rid of that and see if we like it better. Rest assured, our goal is not perfection as much as doing our best, which in my case is taking the extra time to do this. Also, keep in mind certain things, right? Some amazing singers that you would never know this happened with, it's like on a console, you could ride up ends of phrases, and a lot of singers have a particular nuanced, cool vocal thing they do when they're actually getting done with a word. So the ends, the tails, you'll hear like in Chris Cornell's voice, you'll hear him do like a thing where he like ends with personality on almost every lyric he says. As a result, if you were to ride that on a fader on a console in the analog world, or do it digitally with automation, either way, you can bring up those moments. So this kind of thing is not just for removal. It's also for putting in coolness that might go under the radar, but it's there, so let them hear it. Anyway, questions, comments, throw it in there. I appreciate it. I hope you guys dig the song. Much more to come. Any videos you want me to make, throw it in there. I'm happy to do it. Hit the like button if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notifications bell so you know when I'm dropping stuff. Evan, Jaffee, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Take it easy.